In episode 230 of the Drop Set, I welcome to the show IFBB Women's Physique Pro, Kristyn Lia, who will be joining me from Tampa by way of Australia. Coming from Melbourne, she has embarked on a permanent move to the United States in search of better opportunities to pursue her passion in bodybuilding. If you're looking for someone who is driven, focused, and 100% all in for the sport, look no further than her. She made the move to the States earlier this year and just wrapped up her 2023 competitive season with an insane 4 shows in 5 weeks, competing in Atlanta, Chicago, Tampa, and finally finishing up in Texas with the IFBB Texas Pro. In our conversation, we talk about her history and what brought her here, a bit about what pandemic life was like in Australia. Spoiler alert, crazy. And we get into a deep dive on her shows this year, breaking down photos live during our chat and also going over what she intends to do for improvements heading into next year. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And if you're listening to the audio-only version on your favorite podcast app, drop me a review. And in all cases, please share this episode far and wide and tag me in your post. I am at Darren_star on Instagram. So with that, I bring you now my interview with IFBB Women's Physique Pro, Kristyn Lia. Kristyn Lia, welcome to the Drop Set. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I would say I can't complain, except we've talked recently, and I think I complained a lot. So, but I don't have any real legitimate complaints. So, first question that I have for you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how tired are you right now?
Probably about 5.
Really?
I think so.
Just a 5. Okay. So
I regularly nap during the day, so I've been getting up at my consistent time, going to bed at my consistent time, having my hour nap. So think about a 5.
Okay.
Better than last week.
So full disclosure, for those that have not been following you, you just finished your 4th pro show in what, like 8-9 weeks, something like that?
I think it was 6.
6. That's even worse. So
Better.
See, that this is how you can tell what the kind of stuff that somebody's made of. If they even throw out the idea that might be better, then that's a whole level of being psycho, which is a good thing. If you're in bodybuilding, you have to be a little psycho, right?
I think so. You have to be a special sort of crazy.
There's definitely something about the way that high-level competitors are wired that's different even from, like, you know, a less experienced competitor, or God forbid, like a non-gym going person, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk about all that. Talk about your recent season here. Talk about last season as well. But before that, I want to get a little bit of backstory on you, just to clue people in a little bit. So, as anybody listening could tell, you are, I would say, the first non-American that I have had on the podcast. So, you're originally from Australia.
Yes.
And currently living in the States.
That is correct. So I've been in the States since May of this year, and I'm applying for my citizenship to be permanent.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what led, I'm kind of curious about this myself. Like, I know a little bit of your backstory here, but I'd be curious to kind of dig in a little bit deeper into what led to that decision and how that whole process got started.
Okay, so it's probably going to bore everyone, but realistically, I've been competing since 2012. I always kept it as something personal to me. I did run my own business in Australia for a while, doing competition prep and more sort of online nutrition, and working with clients. I found that was a little bit disheartening because for the most part, 90% of the clients weren't willing to do what it takes. And I think because of the way I'm structured, I would always look at that as something I was doing wrong. So I would jump in and try to fix something, but not more than often or not, it was just because the person was lying and not complying. So I stayed in my corporate job, doing medical and financial fraud investigation, insurance, reporting to trustee delegates, reporting to the government bodies, representing our company against contentious clients, writing formal letters, and adhering to strict deadlines, which meant that if I didn't get a letter done in like a week or by a certain time during the day, that our company would get fined. So high level responsibility, very monotonous, boring, but it sort of worked with my gym schedules and it kept it regular.
It gave you a little bit more
Then
freedom and
I went,
flexibility on that side of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had, I'm from Melbourne, so we had a 2 year lockdown when COVID came.
It was pretty
The
aggressive
first year
there, I
I was,
remember.
yeah, the first year was okay because it was like there was light at the end of the tunnel. We were allowed some freedoms, and I bought my own gym. So I had a 3 level townhouse. I bought a fully equipped gym because I sort of in the back of my head had always wanted to buy a gym but never justified the cost. So I knew everything I was going to get: Smith machine, bench press, hack squat, leg squat, cable machine, lat pull down, everything 420 kilos worth of plates and dumbbells going from 5 to 45 kilos.
Just the basics.
Um,
Nothing but the basics.
yeah, so I already knew that, but when I was coming up because I had some medical treatment. I was coming up to a hospital visit. Luckily for me, I needed surgery, and it was prepped for 3 days before the potential lockdown. Now I knew I took that as okay, I'm not going to miss out. If I go to hospital and don't buy this, then there's a chance there was rumors that we'd go into lockdown. So I bought everything. And then we went into lockdown and people went to buy stuff and it was gone.
So
So
you jumped on that before lockdown actually happened.
because in my head, I was going into hospital, I didn't have as much time. So it was sort of like, there's potential for this. So I took it as, yeah, I'm doing this because I've got justification. So I was
Sure.
lucky with regards to having the surgery on that date. Then when I got back from surgery, I got to spend my recovery days setting up a gym.
Nice. Nice. Um, well, that's a little bit of clairvoyance right there, because I know in the States, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Like our lockdown was much more short lived, depending on where you live. Like I lived in Tennessee, and we were out of commission in full force for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then things started opening back up.
Yeah.
My parents live in the Northwest, and they were out for much closer to a year. So Australia, it seems like on the whole, was a lot more conservative and really, really much more
Yeah, they really
restrictive.
pushed it. The first lockdown, I was more concerned with getting meat than anything because we had a meat shortage. So I had to order like 5 months of meat via some delivery form. And for the first couple of months, try to fit my macros with unappealing canned sources of meat, which was not good. And that was only because everyone bought out everything in the shopping centers. Everything was gone. There was no meat. So I was like, okay, tuna, that fits my macros. Okay. There's this really gross thing of like supposed crab meat in a can, and it's got bristly bits in it that
Uh,
make me want to vomit. I'm going to eat it because my chicken order's not coming in for 6 weeks. So, that
you
was a little bit painful.
you got to do what you got to do.
But yeah, but the first lockdown, there was clear rules. We're going to get out at this date, blah, blah, blah. So I was prepping for my pro show debut. Um, got to, I think it was October, and no, it was a little bit earlier. So it was about 10 weeks out of show, and I was pretty shredded. Like I was almost ready for stage by that stage, and they cancelled season B. So in Australia, there's a season A and a season B. It's all amateur, really. There's no pro shows, just bikini and men's physique. Um, so then I went on to prep for March, which was season A, and we were let out at that stage, and it was like a fun-filled prep because I had this new appreciation for freedom. And then got my pro card, came back to Melbourne, and then lo and behold, May comes and we're back in lockdown again. And that lasted 2 weeks. And then they let us out for a week and then shut us up again. But this time the rules were a lot stricter. Um, there was an 8 p.m. curfew. If anyone knows Melbourne, they know that during 9 months of the year, the sun sets by 6 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
There was a 3 kilometer driving radius. So if you were over 3 kilometers, you got fined $5,000.
How do they
Um,
enforce that?
Military and
Wow.
police.
Okay. So just
So
lesson for all the Americans here. You think you had it bad. Nobody in America had that to deal
we
with.
had in Melbourne, we had the military patrolling the streets to stop everyday citizens from breaking curfew or going outside the 3 kilometer radius.
Wow.
If you were outside for half an hour a day, you would get fined. There was only one person allowed out of each household per day at a time. And supermarkets were like, it was the only fun place to go, but you go into it, and because it was dark and cold in Melbourne, I think it gets to like maximum, 12 degrees Celsius in winter and ranges from about 5 upwards. And that's for most of the year. The hottest it gets the 3 months in summer. So it was dark, it was wet, it was dreary, and you go into the supermarkets and there was a 1.5 meter radius. Everyone was by themselves in like full mask. It was just like it wasn't very fun. And then I had ongoing sicknesses during that period. Um, and I sort of got to the end of it, and I was like, I had an incident where I ended up in the ER for 3 weeks, and it was very close counter for me. And I spent a good 5 months nursing myself back to health, um, doing my 12-hour days, training in my gym, and thinking, if I get out of this, I'm going to America. And I remember saying that to myself, but never really believing it. And then January came, and I was prepping for the New York and Pittsburgh Pro. Um, and then May came, and there I was. I had another close call in April, right before I came overseas. So I wasn't at my best for the Pittsburgh Pro. I ended up in ER again, but because of the flights and everything, I ended up going. And then I feel like I redeemed myself in America for the New York Pro. I came back from that, and I wasn't as big as what I wanted to be, but I feel like I nailed my condition. And I came back from that, and there were a couple of personal issues that I went through um, in June, which were kind of confronting, a major relationship breakup, and then my company sold the office in the city because they realized that working from home was more profitable for them. So I'm back from America. We're in winter, and it was the wettest winter we'd ever had. Now we're forced to lock up, and I'd been abandoned by my future. So there was a period of me questioning who I was as an athlete, because I thought that I was going to get married and have babies and retire. Like that was our plan, and that wasn't there. And because of his religious views, I sort of was covering up, and I don't know, maybe I was influenced because I was dieting or I was in love, but I felt like it was a little bit wrong for me to,
You weren't being yourself, it sounds like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like there was something inherently wrong about that. And I think that was just a good tactic that he probably used to control me at that stage. Um, and then, of course, yeah, broke my heart, which is unlike me to get emotionally attached, but I'll own it. This is the first time I'm really owning it publicly that happened. Everyone thought I was just going through post-comp depression. No, that happened. I had a breakdown of what I thought was going to be a family. I didn't know who I was. And then I sort of realized if I'm going to be an athlete, I have to live in America. It's not happening here. There's no pro shows. It cost me like $20,000 to go to America. It's not financially feasible. And then that also led to more depression because I realized how impossible that was. You know, like single white female,
Impossible, but yet here you are. You're in
just
Tampa right
scraping,
now.
you know. Well, at that stage, we'd hit a recession. Interest rates were sky high.
Mm-hmm.
Petrol was, triple what it was before I went to America. The price of lettuce, there were some places selling lettuce for $12 for one lettuce. $12 for a lettuce. And I'm like, what is this magical? Like, it was impossible to even get greens. People were not buying vegetables because it was crazy and people were still panic buying. So I was just like, this place is miserable. I don't have enough money to go to America. That's where I want to be. And it's not possible. So I connected with someone I hold very dear that I'd been speaking to for a couple of years, a relative that I have, Barry Steinley, and he's been really supportive in that, I was the only person that really cared about him and contacted him, and he brought me over here. Like, he came to Australia in March, and I was still like, oh, this isn't going to happen. But I resigned from my job with good faith. So that was an industry I'd been in for 10 years. I had 2 college degrees, and I was like, and I resigned, and then I applied again, and they took me on, and then I resigned, and then I applied with other companies, and I was headhunted. So I had a couple of job offers which came with me to the US because I accepted them as a backup because I was like, I don't know, I've always had to fend for myself and not used to relying on other people. So there's that part of me that needs backup plans to protect myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Keep your
which I
options open.
probably need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of crazy to just quit your job, move overseas with this crazy old American who like rides motorcycles and is ex-military, and bring your cats. I bought my cats, and then I had some problems with immigration, but now it seems to be going well for me, touch wood. And like I gave up. Oh, another reason why I came over was because I had an illness for 7 years, and I was cleared of all signs of this illness in July of 2022. So I was like, well, that's sort of gone. Now I can really, let loose, because the healthcare that I had in Australia was, or is, because it's still going, second to none because of the industry that I was in. I had 1.5 million of cover. I had all of these hospital and extra benefits without exclusions. And if I had have lost that, then to reapply, I'd have no chance, and I'd have all the exclusions.
Right.
So the medical was a big reason that held me there, but that went too. So I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do something crazy, because if you don't take risks and do crazy things, then the worst case scenario is I'll end up dying behind this desk by myself with 2 cats. Or I could have a crazy adventure and then come back and die behind this desk with 2 cats. Or it will work out, and it's working out. So that's why I moved to America. I did a few shows this year where I tried something different, in terms of my look. I don't think it really fit me. And next year I'll be going to what I think is classic Krissy.
Nice, nice. I want to rewind just a second here. So you said there was a long-standing medical issue, and you said you got your clearance from that in July of 2022,
Yes.
which means that for the Pittsburgh and New York Pro, also 2022, correct? You still hadn't received clearance of that while you were doing those shows. Is that correct?
No. So all my shows from 2016, because I competed 2016 in 4 shows, 2017 in two, 2018 I think I had it off, and then I did 2019 one, two, and then 2020 I got my pro card. No, 2021 I got my pro card. Um, I might have done a show in 2020 as well. It's hard to know because I've done over, well, 21 shows now.
Yeah.
Um, I did one show as women's physique, didn't get my pro card, but then my next one I got my pro card. So it's not like I tried 21 times and didn't get my pro card. No, I progressed through divisions. So for basically half of my competing life, I had this illness. And it's only been the shows this year where I've been cleared. So
Okay. Yeah. So you were still, I mean, you were lacking that clearance while you were competing last year too. So, and just kind of like doing it anyway.
yeah,
Just,
the week, 3 weeks before I got my pro card, I was in hospital
yeah. I mean, that's
having surgery,
the one thing I can
and no one
tell.
knew. Because at that time, I didn't come out until after I got my pro card because I felt like I did not deserve people's sympathy.
Mhm.
I deserve their respect, and I
Yeah.
didn't want it to impact their view of me. And I felt like no one would really care anyway. And I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be Krissy with cancer. I wanted to be this kick-ass superwoman.
Yeah.
And I felt like at that stage, I didn't deserve people's sympathy. And
Like kick-ass
then I
superwoman
became,
without any qualifications. Like just
yeah,
period.
and then
That's it.
I became comfortable with having the illness. I think it was something I felt was a weakness in myself. And I learned to heal personally that I would need to accept it. And that meant telling people and not being embarrassed. And that wasn't for them, that was for me. So I couldn't care less if the world knows. But for me to come out and say it, it was a big step for me in acknowledging who I was and validating that I had, you know, things that made me strong, not weak.
And I imagine it's just really not how you want to be identified.
No,
I mean,
no one wants to be identified. Now I can be identified like that because it's gone.
yeah, I mean, it's part of your
Touch
history. It's
wood.
part of who you were, but you don't
Yeah.
want that to define you or be the thing that people that pops into people's
No,
head.
I've
Like,
still
oh,
got 4 years left until I'm cancer free
right.
because they do the 5 year thing. But no, now I'm comfortable with it because, yeah, it's a part of who I am. You know,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
reason to. I felt like, how do I explain? By not telling anyone, I felt like I had a black cloud in my aura that I wasn't releasing. So I had this darkness about myself that I wasn't fully embracing. That I made something into a dark spot. I made something negative, and by telling people, I healed from that,
And by
not the
not
cancer.
by not talking about it, also it becomes something that just by default you're then hiding, and so therefore there's
Yeah.
like shame attached to that that's undeserved.
Well, I didn't feel like because my doctors were cool with me competing. Um, they were really supportive. Actually, they thought it was awesome, and they encouraged me. But I felt like people would be like, coaches would want me. People would be like, "Oh, you shouldn't be competing." Blah blah blah. Like,
Right.
there's a whole level of judgment. People will try to um, poison you with who they think you should be. Like, you're cancer, you've got to be. careful, you've got to go here. Why are you doing this? There's just lecturing. And um, fortunately for me, um, my coach my coach that I had from New York Pro knew, and he was very supportive and thought that it was good. So there are a few people that knew, and one of my friends was pretty cool about it. But yeah, for the most part, I just couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered having the conversation, trying to justify myself to the world.
Yeah, that's fair. And full disclosure, I probably should have led with this, but you are actually my coach, which is one of the reasons I asked you to come on here
Yes.
because I thought it'd be a good conversation to have. But also, like, before we started working together, I was following you, and so a lot of this is not news to me. Like, I'd seen this based on what you'd posted before, and the thing that I had taken away from just following you on social media is like, man, she's really like the most no nonsense, no bullshit person that I've seen in a long time. Like, just whatever, do the shit you have to do and shut up about it. Don't complain. Enjoy it because you should
Yeah.
be enjoying this and just do it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I told myself. I was like, if my competitive career is over, it's not going to be by my own hand. And I think that's a stubbornness that runs in my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Like, I will come crawling with one leg, but I will not stop.
that's fair. So let's do this. Well, hold on. I want to get to looking at some show picks here and going over some stuff. But before we get
Okay.
to that, I know because we've talked like you've got like some crazy metabolic stuff going on. Like you eat probably about as much as I do, except like you still lean out eating like that. So like your intake is crazy, which I think you would acknowledge. Like anybody like that, you're going to have a more difficult time growing just because there's a lot more variables to manage, and eventually there's only so much food you can eat, right? So
Yes,
how much of that do you think is genetic?
a lot. My brother, my dad, um, I don't know whether it's because we're raised active or whether it's just our metabolism, but you could sit in at you know, an Italian buffet 3 times a week and be a skinny little kid, you know?
And I think a lot of
And I
kids
think,
experience that, but not too many people carry that into adulthood.
yeah, I don't know. Like I did marathon running when I was younger. I've always been active, and when I was in retail, I would eat 3,500 calories a day, and I maintained about 45 kilos, which is about 90 something pounds. While I ate healthy, I couldn't put weight on. And by healthy, I mean I followed a high carbohydrate, moderate protein, low fat diet. So that's pretty much my secret to growing and um, dieting as well. So in off season, my carbs won't actually go much higher than what they are, but I will manipulate my fats, which I found is, and I realized that because once I had a prep with a coach who I told my body didn't work like that, but I thought I'd trial her method anyway. High fat, high protein, low carb.
Mhm.
Didn't do anything for me. So in off season, I will increase my fats, and coming into a show, I will decrease my fats, and that's how I diet. And I've had a couple of experiences where coaches have thought, okay, coming into a show, we'll try to load you with fats. I sort of said it didn't work, but I just went along with it anyway because you don't argue with your coach.
Because you're a trooper.
Yeah, it's just like, you pay for coaching, you want to impress them because you want to live up to them. So, and maybe they know something different or your body's changed, but
Yeah.
you learn that way too, and you have periods where you fluctuate, but I think it prepares you for a better physique.
Yeah. And you don't really
somewhere.
have you don't really struggle too much with leaning out. Like conditioning is not really the problem for you. Like you get shredded pretty easily,
Yes. I
which
actually put on size pretty easily too. People don't think,
just
but I put
stop
on,
it. Just nobody wants to hear that you
well,
can lean
from
out
New
easily and
York.
you put on size easily too. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, from New York to when I competed this year, like I never really told my, no, I won't say that. But let's just say that I competed at 6 kilos heavier, 6 to 7 kilos heavier. So about whatever that is in pounds.
About 14. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't quite as lean, but there was a fair bit of tissue gained.
Yeah,
And
that's
I believe
significant.
that's because I quite lean in off season too.
Yeah.
So I found, especially with females, that if you hit over around your 18% body fat, you're basically pushing shit up a hill, no matter what you take in terms of muscle gains, because your estrogen kicks in.
Hmm.
So there's a certain method to my madness. You stay a little bit leaner, um, and I like to control that because you can see what goes on. And if you have less going on in terms of fat, and the same going on in terms of muscle. Like your body's only going to gain a certain amount of muscle. This is what my nerd brain thinks. You can gain a certain amount of muscle, you can gain a shitload of fat. So if you're pushing maximum muscle gains and you're here, well, you could eat a little bit more and go here with the fat. But when you diet down, you're likely to go down a bit more with the muscle gains. So that's something I tried to implement. And over the years, I've sort of gotten better at it. So each off season, I've gained a little bit more and more. But it's also like I work fucking hard. I'm not in there doing like a million reps. Like I work really hard. I push my body to what people would say is that rep in reserve, and then I'll try to push out another one. Like
Yeah.
I'll break myself in the gym with good form. So not like injury form, but I'll push myself. And everyone says that, but I actually do. Like if you were to film me outside of my Instagram sets, it would look pretty feral. Like
So
I'm the person rolling on the floor, like because you know, like, and not like I don't make noise and grunt and stuff either. Like I'm not attention seeking. I just lose that everyone else is there, and I go back to my home gym where I would just, I'd train in pajamas. I'd do everything like, but no one was watching.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's
So a
I
lot
think
of
we're
people talk about when, you train harder when people are watching. No, like when you train harder, like if you're truly training and no one's watching, you don't go, oh, no one's watching, I'm going to cheat. You go, no one's watching, I'm going to let rip
yeah.
because I'm not
Exactly.
embarrassed. Like,
So
I don't care what happens. I could rip my pants.
so okay, let's break some news here then. So you said specifically your Instagram sets. So does that mean the way that I interpret that is that when you're recording something, you're putting a little bit, just like a little bit of brain power towards kind of like keeping it together a little bit for the camera. It's like not
Of
100%.
course.
It's like 95%.
Yeah, it's usually my back off set.
Okay. Okay. Good to
So
know.
I make sure that I get my working sets, like what's going to cause me growth in, because that's more important. But I'll make my Instagram set more pretty and I suppose better form as well, because when you're hitting hard out, that last rep in reserve is going to look pretty ugly, and
Yeah.
you want to make sure that people who are watching you are getting the right interpretation of the exercise too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah. So here's a scenario for you.
So
Um,
they are correct, but they're not like, they're probably like 90 to 85%. They're not like of load.
It's like
They're
one
not,
to 1 to 2 RIR basically.
yeah,
Okay. So here's a scenario for you. You walk into an elevator with a stranger who clearly works out, but they look at you and they're like, okay, clearly she works out and she knows what she's doing. And so they want to start talking to you about training. You're both going up to like the 15th floor. Figure you've got 60 to
yeah,
75 seconds. This is a person who clearly has some experience, isn't a beginner, kind of knows what they're doing, but they're like, Krissy, clearly you know what you're doing. In a minute, tell me what I need to know about taking my training up to the next level of intensity. What would you tell that person?
I would tell them that they need to start. Um, geez, this is so they need to
Putting you on the
do.
spot.
They need to put in less work for greater result.
Elaborate on that.
So, so basically, people will go in, they'll destroy themselves, they'll do drop sets, they'll do a lot of volume training. I find that as people get older, actually to grow your muscles, you need to have more sets that you can recover from. So if you take a marathon runner, they run and they might, move their legs like 1,000 times and they never recover from that. They're skinny. But if you break your muscle for 8 good, solid rip-in reps and put the food in, then they will repair and grow. But if you break the muscle for 100 fatiguing reps, they're less likely to grow because there's a component of inflammation that gets in the way. So that's what I mean. Like work less, but for better result. And if you're actually pushing out the heavier weights with good form to the 8 to 10 rep, I believe that your muscle actually will feel like they're working harder anyway, but in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So would it
So
be?
when people try to grow carbs that don't have carbs and they do like carbs every day and it's just they never grow carbs because they're doing what a marathon runner does and they're training the carbs 50 million times a day.
Yeah. And
Does that make
it's
sense?
quantity over quality. So the way that I would summarize that is
Yeah.
intensity first, quality second, recovery third. Like all those are super important, but those are the three things that you
Yes.
need to focus on.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Good. That's a good elevator
And that's
pitch.
why I'll typically do a refeed on a huge growing day,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'll put a refeed on a huge growing day followed by what I think is the next best grower.
Mm-hmm.
So because there's a 36-hour window where your body will use those carbohydrates. So if I feel like Darren needs this body part to grow, and then following that he needs this one, then I might put a refeed on.
Clearly, it's. I think we know what body part that is. We can all say it.
Yeah,
It's legs.
yeah. And then what's your following day?
Rest day after that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to get it's just your quads. But for me, right, I've got good quads. So, but I feel like my quads need to grow. So I've got a program with Joe Bennett and hypertrophy coach, and it's a twist. No one will have a program like this. So I've got two body parts that I really want to grow, and every week they're different. So it's like a wellness gym bro split.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite new.
So
And
what are your two areas of emphasis?
well, I want to grow my upper body and my legs, but
Okay.
then there's a spillover into my lats,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just the whole width. So every week I'll have a refeed on a chest and shoulders and tricep day. And then the next day is back, which is the upper body. And that particular week, I'll train my upper body 3 times and legs twice. But on the next week, my refeed day is my hamstrings and glutes. And on that, the next day is back. On that particular week, I'll train my legs 3 times and my upper body twice. So
Okay. It's like an AB.
it's like a Jimbro wellness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
so on
every
each of
day is the same
those,
except one day changes. So
yeah.
I'm hitting my what I feel is my dominant body parts 3 times a week, every fortnight.
And
Or
so,
what I want to be dominant body parts. Sorry.
yeah. And so under that structure, you're hitting back after your refeed. So it's kind of like the tag along body
Yes,
part on both of those.
it is.
Cool. Cool. Nice.
So one week in theory I should go boom.
Yeah.
And then the next week I should go boom in the lower half.
That's the
So
idea.
I really want to work on that X frame because I feel like if I can bring a bit more size with my conditioning and you know, by conditioner I mean my New York Pro conditioning. So this year I went for a bit more of a full look and I don't think it worked for me. So if I can bring more size with that, then I think that um, I'll be more happy with what I put up on
Hmm.
stage.
So you're carrying significantly more weight this year. It wasn't all lean tissue. You were a little softer this year compared to 2022.
I well, it's hard for me to tell because coming up to the shows, I was ripped,
Hmm.
and you can quite clearly see that there's photos on my Instagram where and I take progress photos and my glutes were shredded, but then on stage they didn't really marry up to what I'd put up in the past.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that part of that was maybe I wasn't quite as lean, but I think that a part of that was also different methods, trialing 4 different methods to sort of peak
Yeah.
to try to bring a different look. But I don't think it worked. Like I think that I'd already nutted out what or perfected what works for me in the past. Um, but like I wasn't coaching myself, so
Yeah.
um, you can only try different things to see if it will produce a better look, and then um, you know you might think that you have it right, and then you try something else, and it might be better, or then you might actually try something else and think, okay, I had it right. So I
Yeah.
think if you look at most competitors, they have periods like that. So 2024, I think could be better.
Well, in doing all the shows this year, you had several trial runs. Like
Yes.
you've developed a lot of you had a lot of data to collect this year as
Yeah,
far
and
as
it's
how
it's
things
not even
worked.
that. Like the last couple of shows, I sort of knew what my position would be.
Hmm.
I knew where I was in the ranks of the competitors, but to be honest, I just wanted to have the stage experience. Like I wanted the confidence to get up there and go, you know what? I know I'm not going to place, but here I am. This is me, and you're going to look at me.
And
Because
also, one thing you told
that
me was being new in the states, meeting people. Also,
Yeah, meeting
yeah,
people, meeting other competitors, but also for me it was that, okay, well, I know that I'm not going to place and I'm not going to be a sore loser like everyone else. I need to be able to walk on that stage and know that or think that I'm not going to place, but be able to be just as confident as if I was,
hmm,
because the way you present yourself is, um, well, that can decide between first and fifth, really.
right.
So my last show, um, I think that I walked out, and you probably saw the video. I didn't look nervous
Mm.
compared to the other shows. So, you know, now, and I'm a competitor. I want to be able to perform. I want to be on stage. Like,
Heck yeah,
that's what I want to do. I needed
absolutely.
that excitement. Like, I came here, I couldn't be over already.
That's right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a look at some pictures here, and I'm going to pull some of these up here. These are just the galleries from NPC News Online, and typically what I would do is just kind of throw these in post production. But I'm actually going to do a little screen share here so that you can see what I'm
God,
looking at, and I want to get
please don't look at the bad ones.
All right. Well, you can say skip, and I'll move on to the next one. So let me. Where's the button here? We're gonna do the screen share thing here, and I think this will work in the recording as well. So we're
Okay.
gonna go here, here. Okay. Boom. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is 2022. This is New York Pro.
Yes.
Um, and so you felt really confident going into this show, correct?
Yes.
Like felt good, felt like you had a good peak, pretty happy with how everything turned out.
Yeah, I was so happy that I didn't eat on stage day. I just ate sugar and salt because I'm
Oh,
like,
that's it.
oh, well, I was looking good. So I used my rationale there to determine what to eat.
I messed up here. I'm gonna stop this share and I'm gonna share the whole screen because when I click on
Because
a
of
new,
the amount of carbs I can eat, I'll elaborate on that. I found that if I had over 3 carb meals per day in the lead up to a show, I'd struggle with my midsection. And
hmm
so that morning of that show, I was looking good, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to fuck up my midsection this time. So I'm just going to eat the same amount of carbs and sugar
yeah,
and just salt, no protein. Um, and it worked. Like I've never had my stomach so flat.
and that helps. A lot of it's like keeping your food volume low on show day because even if you get carbs and you fill out your glycogen stores fully, if your stomach distends because of how much you had to take in, you've kind of defeated the whole purpose.
Yes, correct. Because there's nothing, I can't look past the distended stomach. Like
Yeah,
all my
yeah,
shows this year, I had that. And I
yeah.
can't look at the good parts of my body because I'm just fixated on that.
Yeah, I mean, like glutes are here. Like, I mean, this is a good look. This is shredded. This is tight.
That was
And
my best look, I think.
yeah, and you
And
look
all I
comfortable
needed
too.
was a bit of size, really.
Yeah.
You can sort of see from that photos, like they always told me to improve my upper body and leave my lower body. Because
hmm
you can see in that photo that I'm a little bit lower body dominant
A
in
little bit.
terms of my. So I purposely kept my legs and glutes the same size. And now they're like, work on your quad sweep. So I just feel like that's permission to just unleash these puppies because
Just
my legs will actually, they didn't really change this season, but if I want them to, they're a dominant body part for me.
hmm
So
yeah. Well, and
I'm
I
pretty excited to be able to have that permission
yeah.
to
And,
get the
and
world's
when
biggest
you
quads.
in the stuff that you post, like like gym posing stuff. I mean, the quads are there. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to bring a little bit more size, a little bit more detail, great. But
it'll be easy for me. They
yeah,
were always dominant.
they're
Like
not
I was
deficient.
always leg dominant.
And so this
I
year,
actually had to restrain the growth on them.
not anymore, right?
No,
This year, what was the first show? Was it Atlanta?
yes,
Okay, so I think is that this one here? I think that's this one. Um, I also noticed in looking through these, let me get this shared here. You got a bunch of different suits. Like you aren't rocking the same
I
suit
do.
for all these shows.
No, I don't want the same stage picture.
So
If
here's
I'm gonna have
Atlanta.
photos, I'm gonna, yeah. So I'm definitely bigger in the upper body. You can see it in my shoulders and lats.
hmm
I'm a little bit fuller. I don't think my condition's off that bad, but I can see that I've probably had too much food volume because I'm holding a little bit of water. So when you're bogged down with food, you will hold water anyway. It doesn't matter what you take. Like if your intestines aren't working properly, you'll hold fluid.
Yeah. And I should also point out to everybody here, like you have to take all the photos with a little bit of a grain of salt because it's different stage lighting, it's different photographers, it's a different setting. So the
I
environmental
think I was on
conditions.
about 16,000 more calories a day coming into that show than I was at New York Pro, which I could clearly take, but it was 6 carb meals a day instead of 3.
Mm,
And I feel like you can't really combat that volume ever.
right.
Like
Right.
it will take a week to get rid of all that food.
Yeah. Yeah. Like your
But
conditioning
I was
here.
pretty happy with the look, though.
Yeah. Your conditioning here is not bad. You don't look
I
off at
came
all.
third in that show,
Yeah.
so
Um, yeah. Like it doesn't look like, I mean, you know your body better than anybody else. Like when I look
yeah,
at this, it doesn't look like you're having trouble controlling your midsection. Did you feel like you were a little bit?
a little bit. But I felt like that show, you can definitely see that I brought my upper body up.
Mm-hmm.
But I am holding a little bit of water in my right glute, and
Yep.
that's my sticking point. Like if I've got my period or if I am inflamed or holding a little bit of fluid, it will come out in the right glute. That's my Achilles heel. I don't know
Interesting.
why. It's just a thing.
Well, and the funny thing is for this IFBB Pro League show, they've only got 10 photos posted of you
Yeah,
here, which
like
is
2 weeks before I went pro, I did the state final, and me and my coach were like, "Why won't my right glute straight?" And then the next day, like, was the day before the state final, and lo and behold, I got my period.
wonderful timing.
I know, but then it was because then the next week following that was the was my pro card win,
Mm,
which was almost as good conditioning as New York, but not quite,
yeah.
not as crisp.
And so after Atlanta, then like almost immediately after, you were then up for Chicago.
Yes.
And so that then is here. What are your thoughts on Chicago?
Chicago, I was given significantly more carbs that week. As a result, my scale weight fell. But also as a result, like I think you can see the feather in my legs is better.
Hmm.
And I'm more shriveled, I'm more drawn in. So you can see that the carbohydrates have sucked me dry a bit more. But because I was given, I think, an extra 30 grams of rice per meal. So, you know, and then 3 meals before 9 o'clock, 3 rice meals before 9 o'clock. Um, I definitely had trouble controlling my midsection, although it's evident that the extra carbs sucked me in terms of my weight was lower, and you can see with some of the feathering, but I really struggled to control my midsection.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Like,
that photo doesn't look like it, but I had 3 big carb meals before 9, and I don't think anyone can really stomach that,
yeah, I mean, like that.
especially because I've been given, I was given six, it's a follow on effect. So six per day. And in the past, like, don't get me wrong, I needed the carbs, I needed that amount of carbs. But in the past, what I done for myself was I restricted my carb meals to 3 a day.
Mhm.
And I sort of forgot why I did that until the end of this prep.
Well, like that photo right there, like that's a great shot.
It
Like
is.
you can pick apart a couple of things in there, but like the legs are there, the upper body hardness is there, your midsection does look tight there. Like that's an impressive package. That's good.
Yes. And my face is pretty in that show too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like
But
you don't suffer too bad from diet face.
no. Because I'm not, like, I'm dieting, but it's healthy dieting. Like I'm still just as lean, but I'm getting all my macronutrients. Like I'm eating enough food that I'm actually getting everything. And my coach had me on all these wonderful supplements like magnesium, vitamin C, everything that I could, multi. So I was healthy because I had the calories.
Hmm.
Like, but there, I can see in that photo that I'm struggling to keep my midsection in.
I gotcha. Okay. From an
And
outside
I
observer, like
was.
now that you say it, I can kind of see it, but I wouldn't have been drawn to that
Well,
unless you
I
said it.
had three meals of 200 grams of rice, my nine. So that's, over,
That's
that's over half a kilo, and that's cooked weight. Like,
that's a lot by 9
it's
a.m.
too much. It is, especially, and more so because, and I'll be fully honest, like the day before I had six, and then you have a diuretic or half a diuretic on top of that, you know, and you don't have the fluid to move the food through.
Right. Yeah, because it,
So
it, it
for
takes fluid in
most
the body
girls,
to help
that's
with the carbs.
yeah, for most girls, I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, if they're not
But
trying to put as many
someone,
carbs through.
no, but I've got the metabolism of, let's be honest, a man.
Yeah.
So, but I've still got the waist size of a woman.
Hmm.
So I'm sort of stuck with this conundrum of trying to fill out the same amount. Like I was eating 770, I think, grams of carbs for that show. How do I do that in a way that's going to be aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's hard to tell from the photos, but like I think, the photo quality plays into this, but I think this is like a really, really good look. Like could be a little drier, maybe like a little tighter in the midsection, but like as far as overall presentation, I'm also kind of biased to this suit. I think that's kind of,
How you like to see?
yeah, I mean it's just sharp. Yeah. So I think that's got something to do with it. But I think that's a great
That's
look.
from an Australian designer.
Hmm. Who is it? You want to shout him out?
Um, can't remember Fit and Knack bikinis. I only used her once.
Okay.
Used her once because she created that beautiful suit, but she also created another one which was exactly the same, but all the beads fell
Oh no.
off. So I didn't use her again.
Oh no. Okay, so here now we have Tampa. So this is, the whoops. Sorry, clicking on the wrong thing here.
Yes.
Hold on. So Tampa is the third show. And here we go. What are your thoughts looking at this? What do you think about Tampa?
I think Tampa was great.
You look way
Like
fuller here.
I was fuller, so I managed to coming into the Tampa show, I managed to get a little bit of my way with the diet in terms of I was able to have five carb meals a day, and then the last 2 days I had four.
Hmm.
Like I say four because I really had the same amount of carbs, but instead of having nine, I think it was 250 grams or 220 grams or something like that. It's hard for me to remember because the quantities vary of rice. I was having 70 grams of sugar, which had the same carbohydrates. So I had that with chicken for 2 meals, and I think that I nailed the fullness and I had the flat tummy,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but I
mean,
was still a little bit too full in terms of like I had 2 days to clear four carbohydrate, five carbohydrate meals a day, which I realized wasn't enough. So you can sort of see that I'm distended a bit in that photo.
just
And
well, if
when
you're
you
ever
are
going to see it, it's in
distended,
the side tricep.
you can't if you've got food hanging around in your body, you can't actually achieve the full shredded look or eye come up because when you have food backed up, and this is gross, you have water retention. Your body will try to flood your cells with water to move it through.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing. It's like one thing
I
that
felt like that was better. And then Chicago, I went in and had three carbohydrate meals a day, two. So I had two 70-gram sugars and three carb meals. So I had, this is how I structured my day: chicken and nuts, chicken and rice, chicken and rice, chicken and rice, and then two chicken and sugar. Sounds weird. I just say chicken with 70 grams of sugar. On a flip side, it meant that I would have this insulin surge right before bed, which would drop so I'd sleep like a baby.
yeah.
Um, and I think I achieved a tighter look there, but again, I can still see my right glute.
Just a little bit. I'm also wondering, like, do you think there's an issue with posing where it doesn't engage as much because it just looks like it's not as hard as the left side?
Um, no, I think it's water.
Okay.
because in my photos coming up to the weekend, I was pretty psycho in the mirrors at M1, like not just taking progress photos, but in staring at my ass and working out what, like it was engaged when I wasn't flexing.
Mm-hmm.
All of my progress photos I sent to my coach, I didn't flex
Okay.
because it was engaging better. And I think it's because there was water in there, and when I flexed, it brought it out.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, my condition, and everyone says this, but my condition coming up to the shows was shredded, and you can't fake straighter glutes for Instagram, you know.
Yeah. No. I mean, you can fake a
So
lot of things,
there
but.
was an issue with peaking.
Mm-hmm. And so then after Tampa, you decided to do Texas kind of at the last minute.
Yes.
And
Oh,
here,
sorry. Yeah, Texas was where I did the sugar.
here is Texas. So what are your thoughts? I mean, this is very recent. This is weekend before last, as of the time we're recording this.
I think
So.
I came in tighter, but again, the same. Like I think that even though the photography is different, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I was tighter than Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, like not as full, but I think I ran 1,000 calories less coming into that show
Hmm.
to try to combat um, the bloat.
Yeah, because we talked about this when we chatted yesterday,
Yeah,
and this was the one show where I was able to
I
watch the
think
live stream of this, and watching the video, I was thinking that before I had a chance to compare photos, but I'd seen photos from the previous shows, and then I was just watching the live stream of Texas, and I thought to me, I thought it was pretty clear you were softer here, but I wasn't able to compare. I'm not seeing you in person; it's not apples to apples, so it's hard to say for
yeah, I
sure.
think what I'm looking at is the bit above my knee.
Mm,
So I feel like that's really drawn in the quad split,
hmm.
which I don't feel like I achieved. Well, maybe I'm blind. I don't know. I did just compete, but I felt tighter. Maybe go to a back shot if there's one.
Yeah, we should be clear also, just to clarify, like this was 5 days ago. So this is very, very recent history.
So yeah, there's that right glute. But show me one where I'm flexing.
Yeah.
Because they also take a whole heap of photos where you're not.
Yeah, and a lot of them are like mid
It's hard to
transition.
tell, but I can see my upper glutes are better than
Yeah.
Tampa, but maybe my lower glutes are not. But it's hard to tell because of the lighting too. And my tan, I had to get redone because it didn't stick to my glutes,
Mm. Yeah, and
which you can
you can
see in the
tell like
lighting.
this stage is significantly brighter than some of the others, and the
Yeah,
lighting also, like I'm looking at it now with a videographer's eye, like the bottom of the stage is lit much more aggressively than the top.
yeah.
So that's gonna make
It's
everybody's
also my
legs look
tan came off
softer.
on my lower body too, but
Uh,
I feel like I was tighter there, even though it might look like I was tighter in Tampa.
yeah. Well,
But I don't know.
that
Maybe
that's
I'm blind.
that's where it's helpful to like actually have somebody who
There
is
I've got
at
the
the
tummy
show.
thing as well.
Right.
But
Right.
also like we were on stage at 12
Hmm.
and I had a bit of a medical drama that morning.
Well, so that was a later show. I mean, because usually prejudging is much earlier than that, but you
Yeah.
didn't start until midday.
Yeah, and I had a bit of stress that morning. So I had a medical related issue that I was treated for.
And you also mentioned like you were staying in a place that didn't have air conditioning. So
Yeah, and that's what brought upon the medical issue.
yeah,
So when I was actually in the morning, I had to sit with medics until about 11 before I
like
was able to get my makeup.
medics at the facility, they had
Yeah,
them there.
they were
Okay.
treating me.
Yeah.
I had a breathing problem
Oh
that
yeah.
was related to my tumor.
Mm, okay.
So that was a little bit stressful because I had Barry in the background screaming at me that I need to get my cancer reviewed and I was stressed because I hadn't had an attack since Australia, and they were treating me like I was a child, and I felt like, I'm not disabled. I know what's happening. I just need this, and then I can get on. And I didn't realize that that was me out, but it probably did. And I forgot about it until now, to be honest. That, that was an issue that I had stage morning.
Everything's felt fine since then, physically?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
good.
like I started having the attack about nine, 9 o'clock. And I think it was just from the heat, and I didn't have my medicine.
Mm.
So I had to sit with the medics, and they treated me. And then after the show, in between, we went to the chemist and got some medicine. Yeah, I forgot about that. So that might have, because I was pretty lean, that might have impacted my cortisol.
Absolutely. If you've got something like that going on, like
Yeah,
that's an easy way to, like, hold an extra pound of water. Boom, just like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I think so. I forgot about that. That's not an excuse though.
Well, like, nobody's looking for excuses, but there's factual circumstances that can change the way that
Yeah,
things play
it
out.
had never happened before, especially not at a show. And it was quite embarrassing because I was sitting there and the medics were listening to my breathing and my heart, and they kept coming over and checking my pulse. And it was like the whole day, every time I walked past security and walked past them, I'm like, you okay? And I was trying to show the woman who was doing my makeup my bikini, and I bent down to get my bikini out of my bag, and they ran over. And they were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just getting my bikini out of my bag."
Like,
I
chill out,
really
everybody. I'm
appreciate.
fine.
I even said to them, like when I came back for finals, they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really appreciate that you're concerned, but can you please not mention it again?" And I think they took it as me being rude because they were like, "Oh, sorry, we're just trying to care." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to forget about, like, I want to have
Yeah.
a good experience."
It's kind of like what we
And
said
I think
before. I don't want the
I
show to
feel
be
like
about this.
they were overreacting to something they didn't know about, that I knew about, that I was in full control of and would have been in control of within 20 minutes. And because they were overreacting to it, it made me distressed about something I wouldn't have been distressed about.
Yeah. That's definitely good. I mean,
That's
it's,
okay. I understand because they don't know.
yeah. And so,
But
I mean, it's,
I actually felt humiliated. Like my coach got there and I told him what was going on. He's like, "Oh, I'm proud of you." I'm like, "I actually feel really embarrassed that this has occurred."
yeah. I mean,
Like,
that's a normal human reaction. I think nobody wants to be the center of
yeah,
attention for reasons like that.
no. And I just wanted them to move on. And I can't blame them, but I kept telling them, I just wish they had to trust me. I actually wish I had never said anything and just suffered in silence, to be honest. Like, there would have been a better result. I would have just moved on within 20 minutes. I might have had breathing issues, but I was at peace knowing that on the way home from the show, I would have been able to resolve that myself. And I feel stupid that I got help because, in hindsight, less people knowing about that would have been better
Hmm.
because I wouldn't have overreacted, they wouldn't have overreacted, and I would have just been able to forget about it the same way I did before this interview.
Well, the
That
issue at
makes
a
sense.
backstage at a show like that, it's not like you can just go into the medical closet and close the door behind you and be tended to by somebody. It happens in the view of everybody out there,
No,
right?
but I could have pretended it wasn't happening.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you could have done it in a way that was private, and then, like,
Yeah,
not everybody is watching everything happen to you, then I think it would have
yeah.
been like,
I
okay,
think
cool, this
my
isn't a
issue
big
was
deal.
I actually knew that the medical tent had the medication that I needed.
Mm,
I asked them for it, where I should have just delayed that until mid show.
mm, mm. So,
I know that sounds crazy, but I could have kept my shit together until I went to the chemist.
well, and so you had mentioned in 2024 is going to be the next
Yes,
version. So what is your plan for 2024? We talked about it before, basically just more size and still bring the same level of conditioning.
I want significantly bigger glutes and quads, chest and shoulders. which will inherently make my lats look bigger from, little methods. So I think that I've got a good program and a good understanding and some good support that will help me achieve that now. Now that I'm in America, if I can get that many pounds of gains in Melbourne, it's my little play, where it's extremely stressful, like I've got poor quality supplements and I'm working. Like sometimes I was getting up at 3 in the morning to get my training in because the job was just that crazy.
Hmm.
So if I can significantly improve in those conditions here in America, I feel like I can, you know, significantly improve.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
excited for that.
it should be a big year. I mean, no pressure, but we're all expecting pretty big things here. So
Oh, I'm not going to disappoint.
I don't think so.
I'm not going to disappoint
Yeah.
myself. So I'm definitely not going to disappoint you. Trust me.
Yeah, no. And so, also, if people want to follow you online, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram,
How do they find you there?
I suppose. Krissy underscore with underscore GUNZ guns underscore IFBB Pro.
All right, and I will put that on
So
screen. It's a mouthful. So,
yes, I did have Krissy with guns for years, and then I tried to change it, and people were like, "What happened to the guns?" We went to look for you, and there's no guns, so I just went back to guns.
and what's with the
And
guns? Are
when I
you a
was in retail, when I was in retail, right, I was this tiny little marathon runner, but I had biceps and shoulders. So I always had biceps and shoulders. And that came because for a portion of when I was studying, I did factory work. So for the first year of when I went to college, I was supposed to go to college, but the whole time I was at college, I didn't go to one class and I just worked full time. Um, oh, because I was from high school. I did like physics, chemistry, advanced maths, and got pretty much perfect scores. And then I go to college and I'm just doing business subjects. And like to me, it was so easy that I would get perfect marks without going because like it was easy compared to those subjects. Like I
Mhm.
feel like high school was significantly harder. Um, I almost did a science degree, um, but there's no money in that in Australia
Hmm.
for women at that time. So anyway, boring part was I did factory work. I got jacked, and then I was skinny, but I had the guns. So I was crispy with the guns when I was, 40 something kilos running around crazy retail. And then I had, of course, like, because I was a retail manager, all day I was just merching stock. So I had shoulders and biceps.
That's funny. Krissy with guns. I always wondered where that came from. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it actually comes from skinnier days.
Skinny, but
Well,
with
my
some
brother's the
arms.
same. When he was a baby, when my baby brother was a child, like he came out of my mum with biceps, and they called him Popeye.
So
Yeah,
there's a genetic component to this. Absolutely.
yeah.
We've
My
proved it again.
sister's the same. My sister's got the same genetics as me, so she's 47 kilos, but she's got little delt caps. So
Too funny. Too funny. And so you are also available, I know, and so I thought like I should ask this as a question. No, I'm just going to say it because I know you're also available for coaching and posing, and so
I am.
whatever anybody needs in terms of bodybuilding support, you're there for that too.
I am.
Cool. All right.
100%.
And your email address, I will throw it up on screen as well. So if people want to reach out to you for anything about that, they can hit you up directly too.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for
Um,
having me as well.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you wanted to throw on here that you feel like people should know that I didn't cover?
I think that you've like pretty much delved into my last 7 years of history.
We were very invasive
There's a
here and
couple
bringing
of
up all kinds of things you didn't want to talk
there's
about
a
or
couple
remember.
of things you don't know. Like I had a crazy divorce and some other medical issues that were more serious than cancer. So
Wow.
that could be the next one.
That's quite a teaser there. Okay. All
Oh
right.
yeah, it is a teaser. It's boring though. Like I feel like all of my history is boring.
Well,
But
we'll have to get
maybe
an
it's my
off-season
time.
update. We're gonna have to come back for an off-season
Yeah.
update after we've seen some growth, and then we can dig in on the boring stuff as kind of like,
Well, I
breaking that
think
up.
it's boring because of the way I pronounce it. Like, believe it or not, before cancer, I was in the Australian choir. So I had surgery where they would stick a metal rod down my throat for 3 months. So I had a beautiful singing voice like Ariel off The Little Mermaid, and then I went to this. So, but it's okay.
I mean, that sounds kind of fascinating. I do want to dig in on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big actress. I did lots of stage performances in Melbourne Concert Hall and
Okay.
played the violin too.
Okay. Huh. All right.
Played a
So,
little bit of the electric violin.
do you still play?
I can still play. I have a 19, no, sorry, a um, 1780 something German made violin,
Hmm.
which I have restored. So,
Fascinating. So when my wife and we released an album back in 2020,
yes.
we hired a violinist to play on 5 or 6 of the songs, and we were originally looking for an electric violinist specifically.
Okay.
Couldn't find one, so we found a great woman. She's actually a Broadway performer in New York, and she's a singer and she plays the violin. And we worked remotely with her, and she sent us tracks, and it was great. But yeah, I'm definitely, like, as a songwriter, I am always in the mood for a good violin to bring something a little bit of extra sauce to a
I can
song.
play the
So.
violin, but I can't sing anymore. So if you're looking for a vocalist, you have to listen to my deadpan voice to find someone else. But I can rock the crazy rock star look with my hair and the violin.
I like that. That's good because the look matters a lot. It does. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
So.
And I change my hair as frequently as I change my socks. So
Well, that is awesome, Chris. So I'm going to say goodbye, but stick around. So I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. I want you to stick around
okay.
first for a debriefing. But
Okay.
thank you for coming, everybody. This has
Thank you
been,
for having me.
yeah,
Thank you everyone.
yeah, episode 230. It's a wrap. We'll be back next week probably with 231, and we'll take it from there. So thank you all for listening. I'm going to stop recording now. I can never find. Here it is. Stop recording. Okay, here's the button. Later, everybody.